Okay, so welcome to this video about converting between metric measurements. We're going to start off with length because that's the easiest thing to look at. It's all going to rely on us knowing these facts here. 10 millimeters is the same as a centimetre, 100 centimetres is the same as a metre, and 1,000 metres is the same as a kilometre. Now they're all facts that we should know. So if I've been given a measurement in kilometres and I would need to convert it into metres, it's going to get bigger because you get more metres than you would kilometres. So to go this way, we're going to multiply, and then to go from kilometres to metres, for example, I'd times by 1,000. And similarly, timing by 100 to go from metres to centimetres, and by 10 to get from centimetres to millimetres. And because you have more millimetres than centimetres, or more centimetres than metres, to go this way, we're always going to divide by the relevant number. So, and it makes sense, it's a logical thing for us to think about. So I've been given a measurement, let's say, of 1.5 times 10 to the 4 metres. Now, when we're given them in standard form, what I always like to do, just to make life easier, is bring it out of standard form so I can see what's happening. So if you remember, 1.5 times 10 to the 4, I get my 1.5 here, without the point now of course, and I know how many digits to write down because that is there. So one way you can think about it for large numbers is it's always one digit extra to the number you've got up there. So if I want to turn this into kilometres, I'm going to divide it by 1,000 because we're going downwards on our little table at the moment because we're getting less kilometres than metres. So that's going to be 15 kilometres because 15,000 divided by 1,000 is of course 15. Now to go from metres to centimetres, I need to times by 100. So I'm going to do that times 100. And then, now I know the answer for centimetres here, I could just times that by 10. Or we could of course come back from here and times it by 1,000, which would give us the same answer anyway. And if we're likening it to other things that we've learned about, this is the same sort of idea as a scale factor, because it's just changing a length. It's not really changing it, but essentially the same sort of idea. Okay, so to think about areas, we need to think about the same sort of thing as we do when we're looking between scale factors and area factors. We're going to use the same information as using before, but I've just extended it all out a bit now. You should make sure that you're happy with where all these numbers have come from. So 1 centimetre is the same as 10 millimetres, for example, so I've multiplied by 10. But I also know that 1 centimetre is 100th of a metre, so it's 0.01 metres. Now to get from then metres to kilometres, I need to divide by 1,000, because of course there's 1,000 metres in a kilometre. So it's the same sort of thing as we were doing a minute ago. Kilometres, I know that 1 kilometre is 1,000 metres, times that up by 100, and then I answer by 10. Now if we think about a square that's 1 metre by 1 metre, if I wanted to draw that same square again, but this time give the measurements in centimetres, I'd have 100 centimetres and 100 centimetres. But remember, they're the same square. So my numbers have got bigger by a factor of 100 in each direction, here and here. So the area in centimetres squared, 1 metre squared, is 100 squared centimetres squared, because we've got 100 bigger in that direction and 100 bigger in that direction. So if my question was how many centimetres squared are there in 50 metres squared, I'd do 50 times 100 squared. And it's exactly the same idea as when we're scale factoring and area factoring. So of course that's which is the same. That's 5 times 10 to the 6 centimetres squared. And say, we're timing by 100 squared because I'm getting 100, the numbers are getting 100 bigger this way and 100 bigger this way. So if I wanted to now go into millimetres squared, hopefully we can start seeing where this is going now. I'd have 1,000 millimetres there and 1,000 millimetres there. So my numbers are getting bigger by a factor of 1,000 in each direction. So going back to our 50 metres squared question, 50 metres squared is the same as 50 multiplied by 1,000 squared, millimetres squared, which is 5 times 10 to the 7 millimetres squared. Now if I wanted to go into kilometres, and it's a bit of a weird thing to do, we wouldn't normally do it of course, but this is 0.001 kilometres, 0.001 kilometres. So in each direction I've divided by 1,000, so my number's got 1,000 smaller this way and 1,000 smaller this way. So I'm going to do 50 divided by this time, because I'm going from metres to kilometres, like we practiced a minute ago in part 1. 50 divided by 1,000 squared, which is 5 times 10 to the minus 5 kilometres squared. And of course you can leave it in standard form, or we could start changing it all back into normal numbers. Now if we think, so drawing these diagrams can help, especially if you're not quite sure what's going on or you've forgotten a little bit about what's going on. It's always worth doing it, going back to see what happens with a 1 metre squared, a centimetre squared, a millimetre squared, and work from there. And if you remember all of these facts up here in this box, there's of course a shortcut as well. So I was going from metres squared. In this question I was going from metres squared to centimetres squared to start with. So to get from 1 metre to centimetres, I've times by 100. So I've done 50 times 100, and then I know I'm doing area, so it's squared, exactly the same as when you're doing an area factor. To get from metres to millimetres, I times by 1,000. So look, I've times by 1,000 squared. To get from metres to kilometres, we divide by 1,000. So I've divided by 1,000 squared. Exactly the same as when we're thinking about area factors. Okay, so we should be able to see what's going to be happening here quite easily now, hopefully. If I've got 4 times 10 to the 3 centimetres cubed, and I want to go into kilometres cubed, millimetres cubed, centimetres cubed, metres cubed. To start with, easy peasy, millimetres cubed. I know that 1 centimetre equals 10 millimetres. So what I'm going to do is 4 times 10 to the 3, because I've already got that from the question, and then times it by 10 to the 3. The extra 10 has come from there, and it's to the power 3 because we're in volume. So that gives me 4 times 10 to the 6 millimetres cubed. We can't just do 4 times 10 to the 3 times 10. I want to go into metres cubed. So I know that to go from centimetres to metres, I'm going to divide by 100. So I'm going to start off with 4 times 10 to the 3, because that's the question. Then I'm going to divide by 100 to the power 3. The divide by 100 has come from here, and it's power 3 because it's volume. And that gives me 4 times 10 to the minus 3 metres cubed. Sorry, my cube didn't come out very well there. And to go into kilometres. Now, it's always best, if possible, to go back to the original question. So, centimetres to kilometres, I divide by 100 to start off with, to get me into metres, and then by another 1,000. So I'm going to be dividing by 100,000 overall. There's 100,000 centimetres in a kilometre. So I'm not going to use this answer. I'm going to come back to my original question. 4 times 10 to the 3 divided by 100,000. 100,000 has come from down here. It's the power 3 because we're in volume. And that gives me 4 times 10 to the minus 12. So in all of this, it's all about how do you get there with lengths. easy peasy, that's our starting point. You've been doing that since probably about year 4. And then do whatever you would normally do, square it so times or divide by 100, 1,000 and so on. Then do that squared for area, and do that cubed for volume. Thank you.